Hello and welcome to our latest Suburbs edition of the Gunnerstown podcast, and I am joined with a full complement this week. So Steve has actually graced us with his presence. Sorry, not Steve. Sub-Zero has graced us with his presence. If you are listening to the podcast, you obviously won't know this, but Steve has decided to wear a massive blue face mask with the Adidas logo on. So you're full brand. You're on brand tonight, mate.
You look so happy.
How are you guys doing? Steve, how you doing?
I am so happy. After the last time I was on the podcast, it's been a bit different since then, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been bad, Ben.
It's only been 2 weeks.
Levels of happiness, like bearing in mind that we basically just all laughed hysterically after we'd lost to Brighton, and now here we are having won back-to-back games since even Ben and I spoke last. How happy are you, Ben?
It's a 10.
It's a 10. It's a 10 from me.
It's a 10.
Where do we even start?
Can we ask? Where are we going to start?
Let's start with Norwich, because we can start with clean sheets. We can talk about clean sheets. We can talk about goals. We can talk about Arteta ball. We can talk about everything. We don't have to talk about Matteo Guendouzi. That is the absolute great thing.
Well,
we don't
can
have
I
to talk about him.
Can I just start?
Go on.
Can I just start that before we get into your two weird conspiracy theories about
No, we're
this
going
player,
to
this player, and that player? Let's get to the
live.
truth. Let's get to the truth of the matter. The real difference is since we started the podcast back up, we are smashing it.
Yeah.
We've won 4 games in a row.
That's
So it's
it.
us. It's nothing to do with Arteta. It's us.
Exactly.
Doesn't know anything.
No. What were we thinking? Actually, then it's also therefore our fault that we've been terrible for
Yeah, we should
about
be
4
ashamed
years.
of ourselves.
yeah, 4 years.
Ben, talk to me about let's have a quick sort of discussion on the performance against Norwich first. Team selection, were you happy with it? Overall performance, were you happy with it? Anything you noticed that you like? Anything that was particularly sexy that you want to talk about? Go.
In short, yes, all sexy. I think I'm probably going to spray wide here, but I think what I'm liking the most about Arteta is, to be blunt, he's making our shit bang average players look good and usable. I think we've obviously, was it today that they mentioned about Mustafi might be getting a contract?
Oh, I mean, what sort of crazy world have we turned into where Arsenal are keeping clean sheets?
Don't jump out the window.
Mustafi is being talked about as a new contract.
Yeah.
You know, this time last year, there were people willing to literally frog march him out of the club.
Yeah.
I mean,
we still wouldn't mind.
His header though for Lacazette's goal at the weekend, bang! David Luiz headed up in the air. It's like, oh, you out the way, bang!
Wait, we'll come to that. We'll come to the Wolves game. Let's talk about Norwich first. Steve, give me some thoughts about the Norwich match. Anything that impressed you? Any thoughts that you thought, yeah, this is good?
Yeah, I mean, majority of it was good. There was still a couple of spells in the game. Was it like the start of the second half where it started to get a little bit iffy? But that's to be expected. You can't just go from what we did to absolute brilliance. But no, overall, obviously, got to be happy.
And how super sexy was it that Tim Krul was the one that absolutely fluffed his lines for that first goal? I mean, I was there when I think we beat him 2-1 and we scored in like the last minute. And yes, Steve, I did see that goal before you make a comment to beat Newcastle. But the entire
it can't have been the last minute then, can it?
Yeah, well, Tim Krul was time wasting the entire time. The game that was at Carrow Road, where he was trying to psych out Aubameyang, it's like, we've got an absolutely Rolls Royce centre forward, one of the best inside the penalty box in Europe, and you're trying to psych him out. No, penalty scored. So, for me, I liked the little bit of rotation Arteta did. I think there was a lot of people that were talking, that were almost a bit like grumpy. When the formation, when the squad was announced, when the first team was announced, but I always saw that game, that Norwich game, as one in which he's going to rotate. He'd even said, we've got a few bumps and bruises after the Sheffield United game, the Sheffield United victory, and he's always going to rotate. So to be able to bring the players in and to have them buying in, and also the fact that we've got injuries at the moment, we've still got a few injuries that are costing us. We've got the likes of Bernd Leno out. You've got the likes of also Guendouzi, who has decided that he's gone AWOL because of his attitude. You've got Mesut Ozil, who, yeah, exactly. The ghost of Mesut Ozil, who's sitting on a bench somewhere, with an umbrella over his head because it's a little bit sunny.
Golden umbrella, a golden umbrella.
A golden umbrella, exactly.
Golden shower, golden shower.
The money raining down. Careful.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast. But do you know what I mean? Like, for me, that was a performance that was good in many ways. He was able to rest players. We had Reece Nelson that played, and I thought he looked really good. We've got lots of players that have stepped up, really. And he said something about a week and a half ago when the Guendouzi stuff first came out. It might have been 2 weeks ago, where he talked about players getting on the boat. And we have got an absolute full cruise liner of players, except for Guendouzi, who's in a paddle boat rowing off to some other island somewhere. And it just really pleased me to see that performance, which then obviously led to the Wolves performance, which we can talk about in a minute. But was there anything? Which goal stood out for you, Ben, as the one that you remember the most and think, actually, this one was quite nice?
Well, I suppose the obvious one is the kind of the Xhaka kind of movement thing. It kind of reminded me of that. But I think, was it United a year or a couple of years ago, where he just sort of appeared in the box and it was like bang. I'm quite liking that Arteta's telling one of the lads in the middle to kind of basically get in the box, which is quite nice and quite exciting. So it's obviously marvellous that Aubameyang's got his 50-odd, what is it, 51?
51 now.
51 goals, and that was great because it was, we knew he was going to get it, but it's that kind of sort of proverbial weight off the shoulders type thing, so he can kind of relax now and sign the thing and score some goals, please. Yeah. But that was my standout.
Can I just touch on that then? Let's just talk about that for a second, just very, very quickly. For you, is that a no-brainer?
Yeah.
Aubameyang.
Yeah.
All right.
I just think you have. That's it. I think you have to do it. Like I've actually been thinking about this for quite a lot today because I was like, we are going to talk about this at some point. And to buy a striker that scores 25 plus goals guaranteed next year, like that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much is that?
60, 70, 80 million. Mind you, in the post-COVID world, you're probably talking, you could knock probably 20-25% off of the value of players just because there are just so many players that hold on.
He's off. Yeah, I just don't think you're going to get a striker.
That's the cat about to jump out the window. I think talking about Aubameyang leaving.
Is that no?
No, do it. Look at this. This is better than the podcast.
People that are listening to the podcast can't see my cats. Let's move on. Let's talk about Aubameyang. Let's go back to Aubameyang.
I just think for what he brings, his presence, his personality, his attitude, it kind of goes back to me kind of wanting players that I like. Obviously, he's incredibly talented, and I think the group really like him. And I just think it's guaranteed goals, and it's worth the, what was it, 40 mil? I think it's worth it, considering the state that we're in. Like, we need so many positions covered, and I think if he's willing to do it, and we're willing to do it, it's an easy box to tick.
Steve, are you ticking your box?
Yeah, what are you saying? What, 250 a week? Is that what you're asking?
That's apparently. I mean, I'm not asking that.
Okay,
I'd take literally a few £1,000s a week to play for. He's a bit better than me.
I'll take one of those branded bottles of water.
Yeah, I think as Ben said, if we can get him to sign, it's just another problem that we don't have to fix. We've got so many problems that we're going to have to fix. I know you're saying about you knock the money off the potential transfer fee we have to pay, but whatever you knock off that, whatever percentage wise, you also have to knock off our budget if we have any kind of budget as well. So it's all like for like in real money terms.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the only thing I'd probably say is nobody heard about amortization 10 years ago. Why is that suddenly an important thing? Like, do you not think? Like, everyone's talking about amortization like we're amateur accountants. Wasn't it lovely in the 90s when football was just like, he's good, play him?
Or is it that we just got older and now we know what those kind of
We are
words
more
mean.
responsible.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think football fans and my mates who are Arsenal fans in their 40s and 50s talked about amortisation in the 90s. But
No.
Wait a
anyway,
minute. Why did you have mates in their 40s in the 90s?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Do you want to talk about this?
Yeah.
no, it's lots of repressed memories. Lots of repressed memories that I've tried to bury. All right.
We got to talk about the Cedric goal anyway, because we were
What a finish!
even we were saying about what the crazy decisions that the club had made in recent years, and his name gets thrown about. Bless him, in those kind of discussions. But he's done it right, hasn't he?
He's a bit good, yeah.
That was a good finish. And do you know what? It's not the finish is just one of those things, isn't it? We've seen players score worldies. Nigel Winter got a worldie every once in a while, but not so much that. It was what he offered in that Norwich game, that in the short period of time he was on the pitch, that sadly our good friend, our dearly beloved Hector, actually he did offer more, I thought, in the Norwich game than he'd offered in the last few games.
Yeah.
But Ben and I talked on last week's podcast about it worried us, the decline of Bellerin. But what we saw actually is a Bellerin that was willing to overlap there. So it's clearly something that the management, so Arteta and his team, are talking to when Pepe's on the pitch. Pepe wouldn't Pepe have loved someone like the Hector Bellerin against the Norwich game, who was getting in beyond the fullbacks? But part of me wonders if that's just the way, because Norwich, the way that they were set up, because they were an absolute basket case. Did he just think, actually, I could get in here? They're not going to show very much going forward, so I'm just going to get in here. And he was good, but he still couldn't pick out that ball, could he?
It has to be, but it's been very comfortable with him, hasn't it? He said no, even Maitland-Niles, he knows has been cover, like it's not a long-term solution. He hasn't had anyone challenging him, has he, really?
I think that's bang on, actually, Steve. That's made me remember something. Remember when there was that interview with, what was his name? Liechtensteiner. And he was like, they were having this adult conversation. They sat opposite each other, and he was like, so what's your aim, Hector, for the season? He was like, I want your spot. And like Liechtensteiner was kind of like, well, we're a team, we're going to do this together. And it was kind of interesting that sort of Hector was a bit like, like his attitude wasn't like, go team. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
There was a couple of images. They're only stills and it's ridiculous, but this is a podcast, so this is the sort of shit we have to talk about. It was interesting to see his face when the goal went in. Did you see that one? He was like,
no.
Yeah, he was.
Oh man, dude can finish.
No, but it's good. But that's what you want. You need to. If that's the way he thinks, and it's like, I've got to be better than this guy, then more for it. Let him shoot from like the halfway line if he has to.
And the thing is, he's just signed a 4-year deal. Like if he'd have signed a 1 or a 2-year deal or something, then Hector would probably be like, well, he's just another Lichtsteiner. But clearly, he's 28, 29 years old, whatever he is. Suarez, he signed a 4-year deal. Arteta's saying, no, you challenge him. And there's already those rumours coming out about, other clubs in Europe, and Hector's considering his position. For me, the options really are, if we were to decide to cash in on him, we'd have to replace him somehow. But honestly, I look at his form in the last, not just post-lockdown, but in pre-lockdown as well, when he was fit. He hasn't kicked on in my mind. So I think this could be really good for Hector if he's up for the challenge. And he does strike me as the kind of bloke that would be up for that challenge. Yeah. The question is whether or not we're going to get more out of him. So the thing about Hector Bellerin for me is he's always had that pace, but that's now gone. Technically, I do wonder how great he is. But did you see there was a couple of times in the Norwich game he'd get beyond his man and he just couldn't pick out that pass. So I wonder if that's going to be on display now, because the 12 odd minutes that I saw of Cedric, and Steve, I don't know if you just want to jump in here. The 12 minutes that I saw of Cedric, I thought, actually, he looks like he's got a bit of end product to him.
Yeah, even his really lucky pass against Wolves. I'm just saying, we're 20 minutes in and we haven't even spoken about the Wolves game yet.
Yeah, we should probably do something like that, shouldn't we, for the last 10 minutes?
So it was about
Cedric. Segue us into the Wolves game then, mate. Go on.
I'll segue into the Wolves game with, it wasn't anything to do with bad defending. It was a great pass by Cedric Suarez. But no, I think he's done well. He's obviously is it 2 games?
Yeah.
He's only had 2 games. So, we can't get carried away and too excited, but it's nice to have somebody who can step in and play that role and who is a specialist in that position. And I think he's okay. The thing I will say about the Wolves game is it has been a long time that as an Arsenal fan, I felt so comfortable watching a game, barring the first 10 seconds where it all nearly went itself. That could have been really bad.
Yeah.
But I felt comfortable, and it's been a long time since that. Even when we're winning games, you don't feel like that.
Yeah. Ben?
No. Yeah, it was nice. Like we said last week about how it felt like we were sort of being choked, and it was like a struggle, and it was like they're going to break us down. But we seemed to sort of build in it, and it was kind of nice to see Danny have another. It wasn't as good as Norwich, but he was pretty good. He was all over the place. He had the old sort of Spanish passion, which was really, really nice. And I kind of feel like 2 or 3 players did well. I think Saka did amazingly well because he was shoved onto the other side because we're trying to get Aubameyang onto the left, which is a conversation for another day. But I thought he did really well considering that he hasn't really played there yet. And I suppose that's the kind of, to sort of talk about Saka for 30 seconds, that's kind of the most promising thing. He seems able to play like 3 or 4 positions comfortably. And I think he's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Claxton.
I think what you're saying is, I think the Wolves' performance, it was a good performance for Saka in the context of how he was being asked to play.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't as amazing as what we'd seen earlier in the season where he played left back, this careering left back that's been all over the place, or, when he's been playing left wing. And obviously somebody likes to cut inside, but, you sign a new deal and then, you go away to Wolves, which is a really tough place to go, and to be scoring a goal like that. Do you not think it was the weirdest? Was it just me, or it was the weirdest goal? Because like the way he hit it, it almost literally looked like it was like
finish, lad.
Do you remember? Do you remember when you're a kid? You're a kid, and like you'd have like air floaters that you'd be playing with your mates. It looked like he'd hit it with an air floater, and it just softly just sort of looped over Rui Patricio, who'd made a pretty good save off of. He'd made a pretty good save off of Eddie Nketiah, who struck the ball really well early on. Just save it onto the post, and then Bukayo Saka just air floaters himself a ball into the corner, and I was just half of me just was a bit stunned when the goal went in. But then when it went in, I was like, "Get in there!" And I'm around my my brothers at the moment, and my little niece was she was playing on the iPhone next to me. She literally jumped in the air and she went, "Uncle Chris, can you not do that?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You've got no idea how much this means to me."
Saka's just done a guided finish, love.
He's air floated it in. But so I guess I want a quick 1 or 2 minute synopsis of the game as a whole. Like you guys have said, it's quite comfortable, but that second half, talk me through the second half, because I had kids crawling all over me. So, and that sounds absolutely dodgy as can be. But I had nieces and nephews that were wanting to play with their toys, and I couldn't have full concentration. So, talk to me about the comfort level when you've got chances like, I think Traore went in, didn't he? And he just lifted it over Martinez. You must have had a heart in the mouth moment there, Steve.
Yeah, a bit. But I think when I say comfortable, I mean comfortable in the context of Arsenal, right? I mean, we've been through games where teams have had just double figures, like into the 20s of shots against us. Wolves had 1 shot on target.
I know.
That's amazing. We just look at times in recent times where it just doesn't look comfortable. It looks like something is about to go wrong, whereas it just seemed well drilled. It just felt like everyone knew what they were doing.
Yeah. So what you're saying, Steve, and I'm just taking words into your mouth here, and I'll move it across the bend when I say this, is so we've had Southampton away and it's a clean sheet. We've had Norwich at home and it's a clean sheet, and we've had Wolves away and a clean sheet. None of the defence need to go in the bin. Ben?
Please don't put that. No, but this is what we said right at the beginning. This is what is exciting, that he's able to make these players, like, we know that they're going to have hiccups. We know that, for example, Xhaka's like literally 1-footed and he will spin around in a circle to make sure he can kick it, but he's putting them into positions. What did you say that we weren't going to talk about the other week?
Oh, that guy with the long curly hair.
Quadrants, or what was it?
Oh, what, the zones?
Zones.
No, let's talk zones. Talk about zones.
Putting them into zones, isn't he? So they're comfortable and you're getting the most out of them. And it's just exciting to see, like, if we were to get 2 or 3 sort of semi-decent players, how this team could be completely different. I know not to talk about them, but you've seen Man United, right? You chuck a couple of decent players into a team, and all of a sudden you think, hang on a minute, they look pretty good. Like, you do the same for us, and I think we could be doing some bits, as the young kids say.
Do bits. We'll do those bits. I think you're right. I think the thing that excites me is less so much the players that we have, because we all have our issues with specific players, but the way in which Arteta, it feels like he's moulding what he's got or his idea.
Yes.
That's what's exciting from my perspective.
Yeah.
It's the idea that Arteta has a very clear vision, and we have a series of players at the moment, and some of them look like they're getting on the boat. Some of them clearly are not. But it looks like he knows the type of player he wants, and that's what gets us excited. So for me, I have for most of this season pretty much written off this as an absolute busted flush. You know, you're playing in front of empty crowds. I actually listen to all of the games without any noise because I don't know. Maybe I just want to reinforce that this season is completely pointless.
I do that because when are we going to be able to do that again?
Yeah,
you've got to experience it while you can.
Exactly. Well, Steve, do you not think that there is something that's being built here that's enough to get us excited, regardless of the fact that we've got no money as a club?
Yeah,
there's something there, isn't there?
The way he speaks, the way it comes across, he's bringing us with him on the journey, right? So when certain players were left out under, say, Emery, we would look on the pitch and we would go, well, we don't even know what we're doing, so why don't we play that player? They can't be any worse than what we're doing. Whereas currently, I feel like we kind of know where we're heading. He's being quite clear about the direction he wants to do, the on the boat, off the boat stuff, where to the point where I'm like, well, even if I like a certain player, if he thinks he's not coming on the journey, then I'm with him. Get him out.
Yeah. And this is the start. So where we're at the moment is I looked at these 4 or even 5 games, if you count Man City in the FA Cup. I looked at these games, and I'll be honest with you, I thought, blimey, that's going to be really tough. I'll take a draw. Leicester at home. If you've then got a draw, you're thinking maybe we'll get a win. Maybe it's a draw there. Tottenham away. I'll be honest with you. I mean, Mourinho seems to be imploding, and he's had a bit of a meltdown at the Arsenal social media team. To quote my learned friend Ben Leader, lols. And then you've got Liverpool at home. So I looked at those games and thought we might end up with like 3 points at best. But we've already picked up 3 against Wolves. You're looking at the Leicester game now, where we've got back-to-back victories without conceding. And are you getting a little bit? Excited, Ben?
It's a little bit, mate. Because it's the thing, isn't it? It's Arsenal, isn't it? Like Steve said earlier, like we need to caveat everything initially with we are useless. So when we get slightly excited, bear that initial point in mind. So don't take it all literally. But Leicester have got 2 players possibly out.
I don't believe that.
Chilwell and
I think that's game playing.
Ooh.
I think Brendan Rodgers is trying a bit of he's trying a little bit of game playing. Go on, sorry mate. Go on.
But then if they are, let's assume they're out. You're going to look at that and you're thinking, right there for the taking. You beat Leicester, and then the wind is in our tails. And I think you've got to be kind of positive. Mourinho's is absolutely rocking. If he's dropping heat on us with still another game to go, he's bricking it, because the lad knows that if we beat them, they're in trouble. And then you're going into the Liverpool game. They're still drunk, aren't they? Like, they're drunk.
They're on the beer. They are
on the beers, mate. Like,
they are drunk, hungover, had about 4 hours sleep, and are really regretting the way they danced last night with that girl that they thought looked like some sort of beauty, but turns out she's an absolute rotter. That's what Liverpool look like at the moment. Steve, you're normally the most optimistic out of myself, Ben, and you. So those next few games, what are you feeling? What are you feeling, my friend?
Maximum points, clean sheets and all. No, you know what will happen, Chris, is Liverpool are drunk and they're hangover, but it'll be like you in Budapest. They'll go to play us and they'll be like, I'm back in the game. And they'll be back to normal Liverpool and they'll absolutely tonk us. Well, we've been here before, right? It's the hope that always kills us with Arsenal. They get us to this point where we're like, we could do something here, and then just absolutely destroy it. So I'm hoping that won't happen again. But hey, if you were hoping for 3 points, we've done that now. So if we lose all the games from now on in those 4 that you've mentioned, we're doing all right.
Well,
But no,
there you
I'd
go.
hope for something against Leicester. I'd hope for something against the Spuds. Liverpool.
Where is
Depends.
it? Is it at the Emirates?
Yeah.
Oh, come to the carpet, my friends. I just think if we can beat Leicester, I think that's a
That
very
would be
tough game.
massive.
I was larking a bit 30 seconds ago. That is going to be extremely tough, even if they do have 2 players down. But I think if you win that paints a good picture, my friends.
Yeah, it does. And it's a different challenge as well, isn't it? Again, Ben, I'll talk to you about this. So go to you first. Leicester are a totally different team to Wolves. They are much more possession based. I feel like they're a little bit more polished than I think Wolves are an organised team. They're a good team. They've clearly been better than us this season because they're 3 points. They've got 3 points more than us.
Yeah.
But Leicester are sitting third, and even though they haven't been great since post lockdown, they feel like more of a finished article than Wolves. Do you think that represents a bigger threat? Do you think that is a big nosebleed that could potentially happen even with the likes of Maddison or Chilwell out? And second question as well that I'd like you to answer is, what sort of team do you think Arteta goes for? Do you think he rotates again, or do you think he's going to go as strong as he possibly can?
I'd like to think he goes as strong as he can. To be blunt and I just think we have to win. I don't think you can, as big and as important as the games are. Obviously, Tottenham is huge for us, which is a bit sad at the moment. But you have to win. Like, I know it's cliche, but you have to win the game. Like we've made so many errors in the past where we've kind of had an eye ahead.
Emery last season.
Well, exactly that, and it's like, no, just win this game, get the 3 points, however it looks, because. To kind of answer your question, they are more polished because they've got incredible depth. They've got a lot of players that are not good, like I'm air quoting here, but not good enough for us. But they are a good bunch of players. And obviously, we know what the old Jamie Vardy likes to cause us a lot of problems. He's just come off the back of how many goals? Was it 100? Is that right? So he will be.
Feels like 75,000 against us.
He will be definitely up for banging one in against us. So
yeah,
it's going to be tough.
I mean, you would have thought that he'd just be flattered and would do us a favour each time. But it seems like ever since we placed that bid, he's like, I'm going to reject you and then rub salt into the wounds by scoring every time we played. But it's a totally, and Steve, do you not think it's a totally different Arsenal team? The one that lost, was it 3-1 or 3-0 at Leicester? I haven't got numbers in front of me, but that Emery side was just atrocious at Leicester. And it feels like we're coming into this game with a bit of momentum, and it feels like Arteta's the sort of guy that could look at the way Leicester set up and say, I reckon I've got your number here. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm much more confident. Famous last words, but I'm much more confident this time. Not so confident that I can say, right, we're going to win. But I think we should be. That's what we should be aiming for, right? That's what we should be aiming for, and at least get something out of the game. But yeah, I think they've got a great first 11.
They haven't they?
They have to really think that they probably have to go up the next level to improve that. I think, in terms of where they are currently, they've got a really decent first 11.
So talk to me about how you see the game panning out then, Steve, and then I'll go to you, Ben, for the next one.
It'd be interesting to see what he does about Pepe. It doesn't look like he's convinced, does it?
Well, he's got a baby. He's got a baby he's looking after at the moment, Steve. So let's cut him a little bit of slack. I mean, I am a massive Pepe fan. I think the guy is mustard. I genuinely do. And his numbers are really good as well. Like everyone's talking about how Pepe's been a bit of a underwhelming signing, but hasn't he got something like 16, 17, 18 either goals or assists this season? That's pretty good for a first season. Bobby Pires, I don't think he racked up those sort of numbers. So I think we've got an absolutely brilliant player on our hands.
Is that goals and assists?
Yeah, together.
I think it's 8 and 8, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
I think he might play. Do you know what? Actually, the only thing that might temper that is the fact that because the games are concertinaed so close together, he might give him a little bit more time off. Maybe he'll look at the Tottenham game at the weekend and playing him. And the thing is, it's not like we haven't got plenty of options out there. You've got Nelson who can play there. Supposedly Maitland-Niles fancies himself there, but there are options there. So you're thinking we shouldn't lose. Ben, give me some thoughts on Leicester, how you think we'll set up and whether or not it'll rotate much.
Yeah, it just depends if Pepe's up for it, obviously, because of his newborn child. Congratulations, sir. But I still really want to see Pepe, Aubameyang, and Saka as the front three. I know, like on paper, it doesn't really make sense. Obviously, on the excitement scale, it does. But I just want to see it to almost get it out of my system.
I think we're owed it, aren't we? We are owed
just
it.
See it because then I think we can literally like to go a bit Championship Manager. We're getting all of our best players on the pitch at once.
Yeah.
Because then you could sort of go. Well, it's the problem, isn't it? You put Kolasinac or Tierney, but if you were to have sort of Tierney, Xhaka and Ceballos, and then say Bellerin, and then those three up front, I think that's pretty exciting. Would like to see it, but I'm not sure Mr. Arteta is convinced.
Yeah, I don't think it will happen. The pundits talk about it a lot, don't they? What they say is, as a centre back, you're chuffed to see Aubameyang shoved out on the left.
Yeah,
and it's true, and we want to see him down the middle.
The thing is, though, is that not a little bit of nonsense? Because the way that, and particularly the way that Arteta seemed to be setting the side up, like people talk about formations, but we line up totally different within 5-minute windows. Like there was times to go back to the Sheffield United game where Kieran Tierney was basically playing as far left as you could possibly get as a left winger, and Saka was dropped in. So we play totally different formations. We rotate so much, and Aubameyang is given the option to actually float a little bit. Like there was a time against Wolves, and there was also time against Norwich where you're seeing cropping up on the right, on the left, in the centre. So I'm not so worried about the left or the centre thing, but I think it's more to what Ben's, again, your point, which is the best front three that we could have, please. And number one, it's not Lacazette in there, because even though he scored,
cracking goal, by the way.
It was a cracking goal, but we've had like nearly 18 months away from home until he's bagged that. So for me, afraid not, fella. Afraid not. Let's cash in. I'm sure there's a nice PDF brochure of him that we could send to Atletico Madrid and see if we can get someone else in return. Cough, cough. Not going to put any players in, but yeah, better call Saul. Do you know what I mean? It's so. Yeah. I'm not as worried with the Aubameyang stuff, and we're just on the 30 minutes now, so I'm going to give you a little bit of an option to a prediction and final words there. But for me, I would say with Auba, I'm not too worried about him playing left or I'm not too worried about the front three and where Auba plays. It's more that we get the front three that we all want to see that's moving around a bit. So, Steve, give me thoughts as to a scoreline. Let's do a prediction for Leicester, which is as we are recording tomorrow night. And then Ben, same for you.
It would be weird, Saka centre forward though. Just saying.
Well,
I'm going 2-1 to us.
Snap! I'm going to go that as well.
Yeah, so was I actually.
Oh well, full house.
Just because so far I've got 100% record, you don't have to both copy me now.
Yeah, we're going to lose. We're going to lose 7-0 now. I got
the Southampton one bang on.
We're going to lose 7-0 now, and Ben and I are both going to blame you next Monday.
Yeah, we'll do that next week.
Lads, as always, it's been 30 minutes of absolute delight. Can't wait until the next one, and fingers crossed for tomorrow night. Say goodbye, Ben.
See you later.
And say goodbye, Steve.
Goodbye, Steve.
And peace out, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.